Thomas College in Waterville, Maine is the seed here for Play versus High School Fall 2023 Maine MPA Finals. Joining me in the booth is Hail Monkey Man. My name is Bearlight, and there would be nothing that feels better than securing your state championship victory.
It's the most northeast point in the United States, but though they be far away, you're right at home for a great championship here on a wonderful Saturday. It is Rocket League, it's Smash, and of course we already have it's just the action, the students, and all the players ready to go bear. It's a fantastic time for more esports, and of course I'm ready to get into it.
No doubt. I mean, it's all about, getting into that action. And in fact, are you ready to get into the action? Enrollment for the spring 2024 season is now open, and it's free to compete. Discover the opportunities that Play Versus offers and get all the details on the upcoming spring season at playversus.com. That is playversus.com. Don't just watch, play. Monkey Man. State champs on the line. That's nerves. You're playing in a live environment here. What's going through your minds right now as a coach, as a player, as you approach this game?
When it comes down to having the game, the mechanics, you've done all the practice, you've done all the work. The foundation has been laid, all the practice that you've done for weeks, for months on end, to be able to lead into just before winter break, which a lot of students are looking forward to, now has to culminate into a nerve-wracking but poise growing moment. And that's exactly what these coaches and teams and students need to pull together to realize. Everything that you've done up to this point has culminated into the peak, which is this championship here for the fall semester. And everyone, I mean, now it's just about that nerve check. You have a live environment out there at Thomas College. And of course, they're going to be loud. They're going to be celebrating with you. They're going to be crying with you. It's going to be a fun time and bear. It's just about being able to go out there and play your game.
Let's talk about the matchup now. We've got the Noble Knights RL1 from Noble High facing off with the Pack RL from Maine Central Institute. And let's talk about MCI first because they bring in 3 teams to the championships. That's quite the feat here for this roster, but they got their work cut out ahead of them as the Noble Knights have been very strong throughout the entirety of the season.
This is a Knights team based on what we've seen in the standings and, of course, the regular season moving in through the playoffs. They have not dropped a game. 28-0. Number 1 for a reason, and they are aiming to do the same thing here if they can continue to be perfect. That would be a 32-0 game season. Perfect completion. But, I mean, you're talking about the Pack over at MCI. This is a team that's already been able to get rid of their past demons. They were felled only once. It was in an 0-3 sweep, and that was against Coney High School in an 0-3. Well, they were able to deal out the same kind of punishment and rectify as they got 4-0 in front of them, and now they have to face off against a team. They didn't meet this team in the regular season, Bear, so now it's about being able to see what they can do for the first time against them.
You can catch them by surprise. I like where I'm at if I'm MCI. I love the fact that the Pack come in with no high expectations as far as being the favorites in this one. When you do have that target on your back, like Noble High, that allows put some pressure off of you, especially in this live environment here at Thomas College, and it really allow you to play your style. And it's not like they've been slacking at all. Like you mentioned, just that one match dropped. Plus, they got some pretty strong leadership behind them as well. Sean Stackhouse, one of our good friends from the Rocket League scene as a professional caster and just basically the voice of Rocket League at this point. And the Esports Awards, by the way. Big shout out to Stacks and what he's been able to accomplish with this team as they've gotten to this great mark.
But is it going to be enough? Because they have to take on the same kind of coaching that is Ryan I'm not even going to pronounce your last name, man. You got a great last name. But with Peanut Frosted as well as Carl Jumper. And this group over at Noble High, they have a target, but they also have giant shoulders in order to bear it, and I think that they're going to be able to do exactly that. When you're playing at this high level, it doesn't matter that someone is vying for you because everyone has been doing that for the entirety of the regular season, and they've just got to keep competing like they have been. Maybe a 4-0 sweep is in front of them if they can stay at that high level. And you said, hey, Stacks, he's got that kind of experience. This program has been fundamentally raised because of it. And if they can bring that from the leadership that comes from the coaches and more, then this is going to be a battle of the Titans. And of course, when you have 2 teams that have not faced off in a regular season here for the fall semester, that means it's anybody's guess, anybody's game, and they have to determine how the competition is going to be going through the first couple of this best of 7.
That's right. I mean, it's going to be a long series and you can adjust along the way. And we do want to give out shout outs to all the players and the coaches that are involved here as well. Starting with the Noble Knights, starting roster here Peanut 2.0. We've got a Frosted Phoenix and Carl Jumper on this side. If you're a part of this high school, you know these names because they've been able to do such big things throughout the entirety of this season. And as a Rocket League team that has this kind of success, I've seen it circulating around Twitter. The large support that these esports programs are building in their schools, thanks to obviously avenues like Play Versus, like Stay Plugged In. So these are all just cool opportunities to see the support behind esports grow.
Yeah, but on the other side of that, the pack is going to have Jello Boy, Elvis, and Mercury. And so you know that we'll never be able to see the high school scene just kind of develop. We got to see one that I got on the socials, and it was literally a boxing match. These guys came out in capes and cloaks, and it was the hype that's around it. And now that they get to be able to elevate to not just here, but also a university level for this kind of showcase, you, the parents, the friends, and all the family out there that have come to just see these teams and these students succeed, you need to be the loudest ones today. And that's what they definitely want to have behind them as both these teams are set here in just a few moments to get ready onto the pitch. And I mean, now you have a team. All right. Both are in best of seven land. It is the marathon, as we like to call it. No sprints BO3, no jogs BO5. You have a little bit of time. If there's mistakes to be made, if there's warm-ups to be had that you didn't already go and get like in the green room or on the practice land, it's going to be in these first couple of games, and you don't want to let anything get too rattled in there. And that's definitely where the coaches come into play.
That's right. They need to be able to communicate to their team clearly throughout the entirety of this because it is that long series. And not only that, but if you just establish a really quick lead here, let's say you get a 2-0 in this series. I don't know how many times. It's been countless times I've seen teams actually falter and basically get into their own heads. For example, the Noble Knights coming in at that perfect mark. Number one, I feel like the only team that can beat them are themselves throughout this bracket. Getting confident at that 2-0 mark when you have the coaching like Sean Stackhouse across the way, who's able to adjust on the fly. Nobody sees the field better than Stacks. We know this. We know this from the fact that he's been casting Rocket League at the professional level for such an extended period of time. So you have that vision, you have that leadership, not only from your coaches, but also from your captains. Who's going to be the leader in the comms whenever the coach gives you those instructions and gives you that ability to see that play? I'm looking for leadership here throughout. It's a matter of who's going to step up through the entirety of this best of seven.
Yeah, because when we get games like Rocket League, it's not exactly like where there's a main IGL. There's a lot of play calling and it's very, very fast. If you've never heard comms when it comes to Rocket League, it is, hey, I'm up, I'm going, I'm back. It's very swift and sometimes it feels a little ADHD, but that's okay because it's just as quick as the 5 minute span that you have to kind of work through it. And you do see that leadership really develop and get kind of manifested into some of these big student leaders, especially because they have to calm the troops. Be like, hey, we need to just calm down. Let's bounce out our attack. Or we need to press. We need to get aggressive. And you know that some of that comes into play between games as well as within the game itself. And we talk a lot about stacks, but I want to know, I want to see if they'll be able to tell us later if they really kind of plan for these big land environments, because you could be cozy at home, you could be in your program's kind of esports dojo, if you will, but when you finally get loud, when you get kind of that you're out of your seat, out of your comfort zone position, that's when really things get exposed. And I love seeing that because that's when you see really how some teams can handle not just the nerves of competition, but having to play anywhere at any time. And lands are just a magical moment. That's exactly what this is all about.
100%. And that's the specialty of, having organizations. Let's talk, Maine Principals Association that's really doing big things in the state of Maine. And these exist throughout the country. But to see Maine in action and really, get the programs backed and behind and supported here from their sports or varsity programs is pretty cool to see. So yes, programs are building across the country, and to get to see this little bit of the state of Maine is something that I'm incredibly excited to see. Well, we're gonna go ahead and get to the pitch here momentarily. So Monkey Man, your keys to the game, knowing that this is a high school environment, you've seen a lot of college Rocket League play, I know I have as well. What are some of the keys that you're looking for to set your team up for success besides leadership?
I want to see how they just kind of come out the gates in game number one. I want to see, challenging early. You cannot let the entire field get dominated, especially with just possession control coming from the midfield onward. We've seen that work a couple times when it comes to kind of counterplay, but then you're working off of really big 50-50s, and then you can start getting pressured, demoed, and bumped and bruised, and your boost stolen. No, you have to be meeting people out in midfield, and that's where I want to see a lot of this passing come into play. We get too much time that we get trapped on the perimeter into corners from the pipelines. It's got to be making sure that you not just work in circuit with your one-on-ones and being able to kind of get some of your better just ball handling and fake outs. You got to find those 1-2 connections, but you also can't rely on them either. And that's where I want to know the other side of the leadership that comes from captainship from these players. Can they straight up just be a catalyst for change? Can they be able to just inspire them from the front? And sometimes it just takes a good fake, takes a good individual mech. And I want to see, hey, who's going to go to the backboard first? Who's going to be throwing down our first dunk? That'll be the big exclamation point to really start off this game. But let it all open up in game one. Just play. Go out there and just start fast.
Get your energy right. You're
Yeah.
right, because if you get that first dunk, you get something to be proud of your team. You go back to them and get the comms buzzing. That's gonna calm things down a little bit overall as far as the nerves go, while using that same energy that you use in being nervous to kind of conjure that energy into something new, into something exciting. Get your team riled up, and even if you come in with the most polished game plan, you might be outmatched across the pitch. When you go up a team like Noble High, so you have to make sure that you get that energy and play at not only 100%, but you're constantly looking for ways to improve. So I'm excited to see which team gets off to that. Obviously, Noble is going to be the favorites coming in too, but when you have that target on your back, the last thing you can do is lose focus. The last thing you can do is establish a lead in the series and then start to sit back and allow the other team to come back at you, because you know that they're here for a reason here in the finals.
Yeah, there's also the other side of it. You're gonna lose a game. That's what's gonna happen. You have to take that as like an inevitability. If you go perfect, oh my goodness, that's fantastic. But don't let yourself get rattled by a loss. There's too many games of Rocket League that have ever been played in ranked socials or otherwise where you just, all right, hey, that's a loss. That's good to go. It doesn't matter if it's 10-0 or 1-0. Some of those can be a bit tighter, but that's also where between games coaches need to kind of get everyone settled down. I've seen programs that also get teams like, okay, hey, we need to get our own skins. They get them up, they get them out of their chairs, and they start doing jumping jacks. So maybe we get some of that kind of moving around. You got to get the blood pumping, because sometimes it's all in the wrong direction. Your fingers feel a little bit tight, be it mouse and keyboard or controller. You still have to be ready from game to game, no matter the outcome.
I'm telling you, I'm doing jumping jacks if Noble High is able to go that perfect 32-0
Ooh.
throughout the entirety of this season. And that's a great question, though. Like you said, that makes Noble High more susceptible to this because they haven't dropped a game. And so you're saying you have to be accepting of the fact that that's going to be a possibility here. So that's got to be more difficult on Noble, right?
I mean, it's a lot more difficult, but I mean, you're holding yourself to a high standard. You also, and some of the ego that really you put into competition, you can be at that high standard. You never face this opponent, so that's going to be a different kind of tier to kind of have to deal with. But I like the idea. Stay perfect, but when you finally fall, if you were to fall with a single game, it can't rock your world completely. But that's also why I like what I like to call dirty records, which has a loss or two in there, just to remind us what kind of efficiency you still have to practice for, because practice will eventually make perfect, and perfection will then be proven on when you're holding the trophy. So we're going to be getting into the pitch in a moment. I think that really the learning curve has been acquired by the pack because they were able to fell a foe that originally felled them. I think it was in week number 3 whenever they faced against Coney High, and then turning from an 0-3 into a 4-0 when it was the semifinals that mattered the most. That really is the measuring stick of how good they are now into the postseason. But I mean, Noble Knights, when you stay perfect, what is there to really say that's worse off for them? They're looking great.
That's right. And it takes a full team effort in order to really take you down at this point in time. So we'll see how these three react on the other side. I mean, MCI, this is a team that's bringing in 3 championship teams, like I mentioned at the top of this broadcast. So winning is almost becoming a culture at MCI, and that's seen sometimes be a little bit tougher to handle. So We'll see. Again, these two teams haven't met, so that means that even though Noble High hasn't dropped a game yet, that doesn't mean it doesn't start here. And we're
Mhm.
starting soon. We've got both teams in the lobby, heading down to the pitch here momentarily. Excited to get this one through. It's a best of 7, so grab your snacks now, grab your water now, because once these guys get down to business, these guys and gals get down to business, it's gonna continuously flow. The energy's not gonna stop until we crown a champion here today.
You know that you don't want to see a 4-0. We want to see best of 7 go to game 7 OTs. That's
Always,
that's the
always.
magic moment, right? But
Yes, sir.
if you're the pack maybe out of MCI, maybe you would love to see a 4-0 going your way. Either way, it's about just kind of shock, awe, dominance, and making sure it stays consistent throughout your game, and a lot of extra comms to make sure that everyone is at that peak level all the time. That is going to be one of the most difficult things because this is an exhausting affair. You got set up at your desk. You're in front of a crowd. You are ready, but are you? All that practice for the regular season and now into a moment where you are trying to become a state champion. That is going to be the piece de resistance, the peak of at least this fall semester, and everyone is looking over there for it, and they want to be able to hold that trophy with everyone else as well. But Bear, you know what? I think that this one has the potential because they haven't been able to find a mark against each other as of yet. I think we're at least going to game 5 or 6 at minimum because they're going to be trading blows and figuring out what kind of identity both team has.
That's no doubt true because, looking at the bracket here coming in, both teams, like you mentioned, 4-0. So they had their sweeps coming through. They're both with a head of steam. And when that typically happens, rather than one team ultimately dominating the other, what we see is a methodical game. Typically, one's a little bit chaotic. Game 1 can be, but once we settle into game number 2, you'll see much more, slower paced gameplay. Let's see if that rings true as we head down to the pitch here now to begin game number 1. Get up, get loud, and let's get going in the championship here for the MPA.
Play versus high school fall championship. The pack of MCI will be in orange. The Noble Knights will be in blue. And I want to see who's going to take first stock of the situation. Who's able to find a bit of that extra aggression and be able to turn it into some big points. So far, Noble Knights, they're holding themselves head and shoulders in front of the midfield line, but the pack looking on the attack. That one coming up just a bit short, but it was called Carl Jumper that made the interception.
He tried to dribble it out, not able to connect here though. Achilles that shot off the bar. It's still up there. They'll try and challenge as well to settle it down to a teammate, but Frosted and Phoenix and another member of that defense. It was Peanut that jumps on it here for the Noble Knights to at least get that first defense sequence over with. And things start a little bit hot here, Hill Monkey Man.
Yeah, that was a chaotic defensive response by the Knights as they had to answer with a triple commit just to make sure that the second follow-up, that was a nice lofted back pass, but it's Fresco that's actually rotating back and Mercury left on the sidewall, and now you kind of squeeze those defenders together. Luckily, it turned into a wonderful 50 in favor of Mercury, and now the pack still on their heels at the moment on this defensive effort as Noble Knights are given extra looks. Oh, but a whiff! Oh, same to be said for Mercury. That could have been a nice offensive play.
Yeah, sometimes you're not expecting the whiff on the other side, and it causes you to get a little bit, in your heads and not able to land that one. So you'll have to shake it off. Mercury had that opportunity, but just couldn't quite find it. And, you have to tighten those things up as it goes along. But right now, no damage done as another combo effort there from the pack defensively in order to chop that towards the outer realm. But here's Peanut off the corner trying to set up 2, and Carl Jumper just had to play that 50 to keep possession here in the offense zone for the Noble Knights.
Oh!
Carl Jumper able to get to it and strike first for the Noble Knights.
Carl Jumper living up to their name, and they have not left this back third alone. Immediately turning about to try and take on that offensive chance, and they're just not leaving those as solos that are going to be cleared by the pack because that very easily could have been a massive clear. Carl Jumper already top shelf and in. Wow. That is 2 in a hurry.
I think we found our leader, at least our striker, that is, for Noble Knights, as off the kickoff, almost drawn up. And if you win that, you get the 50-50, and you have a teammate ready to react and get up there in time in order to smack that one back towards that other side for the pack. They are left on their heels, and the Noble Knights are showing us why they've been perfect throughout the regular season.
Carl Jumper, high involvement so far. Obviously a couple goals, but also weaponizing his teammates in a big way, and that now has drawn my eye as someone that the pack needs to stop. Soft touch into the midfield, and this is going to be a give and go, but there's not a lot of boost left for MCI as they try to circulate. This is an awkward position, but the backflip turns into a chance. They get a bump. Well, actually, that's a team bump situation as Carl Jumper rotates on through. And as they take possession, everyone has a sigh of relief from Noble as they now know they can safely get out of their goal.
Jello was able to dribble past a couple before Carl Jumper will settle it. Try to take a shot there, but Mercury in the exact right spot to try and transition out. Extra touch there, but a Frosted Phoenix was right where he was landing. This one will be chomped at towards the corner. And Frosted Phoenix will leave it for a teammate. It's the man who has striked twice already. And this early bit, as Carl Jumper will leave it for Peanut here. He'll look for the box, but no connection made. It just kind of leaves it there, and Mercury just having to try and get creative to get this one out. Nobody back, Mercury, and he's able to get that final dunk. Peanut did what he could, but it's not enough. The pack have cut the lead in half.
That's not one you expect completely to work, but Mercury just happened to be in a great position. Why not turn it into points? MCI finally gets themselves on the board. And that was Frosted Phoenix, who was followed very closely by Carl Jumper, who we know has been aggressive so far in this game, and I think is going to be the main mech player to really do a lot of it. Double flip reset as they're able to nearly get a third. That gets denied by Mercury as the pack is still safe with just a 1 goal down.
Frosted Phoenix will grab the boost, allow it Peanut to step up too. I like the simplicity that I'm seeing from the pack. Right now they know that they have the mechy individuals across this pitch, but right now they've been doing a good job to handle it. Sometimes you want to settle yourself down in these high pressure situations at land, and this is a great opportunity, but Frosted Phoenix will take it away. Nice save.
Good look by Frosted Phoenix because both of those defenders were beat. They had no boost. They were out of position, and the dunk was coming in. Mercury, oh, what a bump! And that's going to be Jello Boy that ties us up with 1 minute and 2 to go.
Mercury, the closest planet to the sun and the closest to the net, so you might as well get a bump on the way through. And Jello was able to just be there short side, be there in support. That's what I'm talking about. You can tell his team's well coached. Stacks has got this team up and going after Noble Knights took a quick lead. And we find ourselves equalized with 1 minute left here in this game number 1. But Frosted Phoenix is giving away possession again. Carl Jumper luckily on the spot. And at midfield will launch it in. For Peanut here, he'll try the corner to bounce it off back wall. He's got a teammate, but another save here. Mercury getting it done both on the attack and the defense, but it's still not over. Pressure continues. Peanut tries to strike in, not able to do it, and the pack will at least get away with their lives, and now will be able to transition looking for more.
Mercury, slow setup. They're going to try and bleed some time into these moments, but because they had to take so much of that boost just to be defensive, they don't have much to last until they find more midfield rotations. Fresco, soft touch. That one should have been given back to Mercury. It eventually does get there, but you have that soft connection between teammates. And, you know, now with this tied up 2, you're looking for a late leading goal that really could give you this first game. And if you're the pack, you would love to put a blemish onto Noble High. Carl Jumper, they're getting there sooner, but that's going to drop to the floor. Game 1 overtime. I'm not surprised.
Not at all. The way this one is cooked up. Noble Knights had that quick start. Now all the momentum is shifted to the pack. But Peanut will try to stop it in its tracks. To the corner it goes, where Carl Jumper will jump on it from there. Bit of wall dashing too, showing off the mechs in every single way. But we'll need that support as Peanut will settle it down here, but stepping up instantly is this MCI team. Jello Boy tries to get past Frosted, but they nil it twice. This one's just gonna lazily bounce its way back. Noble Knights are able to stop the pack and their momentum that they were rolling with. In 30 seconds into overtime, they've won game 1.
Oh, that right there. That hurts. Not too bad. It is game 1, and this is when you get all your mistakes out. But the third man committing into that position is not how you want to give away the game. I think that was Mercury that went for the late draw, and with 9 shots, a hat trick, and wow. They have all their team's goals. I mean, it is 100% team participation as Frosted Phoenix also got a couple of assists and Peanut with the 1. But like 9 of 12 shots came from Carl Jumper. Sometimes you have a player that's just having themselves a game. And often that is game number 1, especially for these long series. But I want to see what more comes out of Carl Jumper because obviously that's one of the best weapons in their arsenal.
Having a great game, obviously, but having a great season overall. You can tell he's the leader of this team, plain and simple. Been outstanding in that game one. The striker, you can tell the mechanics are there. You can tell the field awareness is there. The speed, obviously, mechanics go hand in hand with speed. You have to use those to get where you're going. But just excellent showing from him to get that hat trick and basically solo-handedly get that done. I know he had a bit of support there overall, but it was the Carl Jumper show to kick things off. And I don't think that MCI really is too far away from the challenge. They do see the challenge at hand, and I do think that they are able to at least limit his opportunities. Now, I say limit the opportunities, and he still puts up 9 shots. So you have to do even more than what you just did in that game one, which already felt like a lot.
It did, and they got a couple times where they were able to bump him out of the way, and I think that's what they're looking to do: slow him down, force him into those zero boost and 0 second moments. But it was also Carl Jumper that on that third and game-winning goal, that was just kind of an advert mistake that was made by the third man from MCI. So that's something that can be cleaned up. Luckily, it was in game number one. This is where you get everyone to kind of bristle down, say, "All right, we're cool." That could have been a different thing, but the woulda, coulda, shouldas are going to be said all series long, and you got to make sure you're just focusing from game to game. Game number two, it'll be a similar beast situation as we get to see what the pack can respond back with.
And that's what I was going to get at, right? Because, yes, you did miss out on that opportunity to give them in hand the Noble Knights their first loss on the season. Imagine doing that early in the season, in the series. That would be incredibly effective to get into the minds of this team. But now you just got to rub it off. You just got to make sure that you're focused on the game at hand. Right now, Carl Jumper right back to it, getting his possession that quickly. And Frosted Phoenix, he's just going to toss it right back to him. Then they give away possession right away. A lot of these times when you see and feel like you just need a clear, sometimes you need to get that out. That's an interesting touch, though, as Carl Jumper just decided to toss it back for a waterfall on his own net. Luckily, the defense was there and ready.
I think they saw that there was just so much space that MCI had given up, and they just didn't know if someone was bearing down upon them on a very fast challenge. They thought that they were good to go with it. And one player that's really made, I think, Carl Jumper comfortable is, in fact, Frosted Phoenix. This has been a guy that's really been just kind of soft passing, feeding the machine, the beast that is Carl Jumper. Everyone from the pack goes for that one, and luckily, Peanut can't put it in a more dangerous spot in the box, but unlucky for them, Carl Jumper is trying to.
And Frosted will follow that up. That 1-2 punch you're talking about right back to it. And Peanut, well, tried to get that pinch. It didn't work. Actually just threw his car backwards awkwardly and would just have to cycle around and let the rest of the team get to work. Arky will keep it there, but it's left right into the hands of Peanut. For the other king. Noble Knights right back out. Stole the boost out in the process in that rotation. And now that'll make it difficult for the pack who have low boost, just having to chop at it. That'll allow Phoenix to take a shot. Now another touch, but it's going to be one that leaves it right for Peanut again. Noble Knights back on top.
You knew this was doomed from that bounce right there because both Mercury and Jello Boy had been staring at their own net. They could only backflip pop it, and two very deja vu similar efforts in doing the same thing. And finally, the third man crashing in is Peanut, who is just as involved and finally gets a goal. Someone other than the likes of Carl Jumper. This is a great pancake, and they're looking for yet another one.
He is relentless. Frosted Phoenix there on that back wall, just trying to cause more chaos after he had already jumped into that play and made the defense think twice about what it was they were doing. I like that play, but look out. Carl Jumper having to make a big save there, but demoed off the pitch. Now a chance here. Mercury able to chop it. This will be at the top of the box. Jello shot. Oh, Carl Jumper got just enough on it to keep it away.
He was bumped into that play. That one was them being thrown around like just a ping pong ball. Oh my goodness, and you didn't know where it was eventually going to just conk off of. But at the midway mark here of game number 2, it's still Noble Knights. They've been the only team to hold any kind of lead, even though it gets tied up with them in game 1. Here in game number 2, they're holding it, they're doubling it.
And we see the 2-0 lead early in game 1 as well. And Noble Knights right back out to that mark, and a little bit more of the same there from third man back from the pack. And I don't hate that challenge just with the last man back, but if you want to commit to that and take that risk, you have to be confident in knowing that you can get up to that challenge and get a touch on it. Otherwise, you see Noble Knights, especially a team of this caliber here in the state of Maine, they're going to make you pay every time. But here's potential injury, but Jello Boy just couldn't connect.
Big miss by Peanut. That one was a try for a back post shot, which I think they were looking at a goalie that might be streaking a bit faster. And Peanut the similar effort here is just going to kind of plant it to the board. Jello Boy has to find this. Oh, goodness. Where's the third man? Nowhere to be seen because all forces had been committed by the Knights. And that's a wonderful 50-50. Mercury's going to try and soft play this. The second man's going to have a look in the third, very far back, and will not get a chance to move upfield because this is in fact found by Carl Jumper, and the defense is existing. Jello Boy had to rotate away, and Mercury is just a step late.
It's crazy to see how similar these offensive approaches is, which is little tiny touches that get around the defense, make it awkward. And another opportunity, speaking of that, for Mercury, but doing a better job so far of that strategy has been Noble, as Frosted Phoenix will do it himself with a big bump out in front. A 3-0 lead for Noble Knights.
Let's check out this one. You have Jello Boy, who is just trying their best to flip back, and as soon as they finally get an angle of attack that can work, the vector is cut off by a very feisty Frosty Phoenix, as they just get a touch onto the fender of their car, and the pack have been unable to score as of yet. And you were talking about the soft, or at least a single touch play. They're trying for first touches that then open up a gap behind them for a nice back pass to really kind of get the second man rotated in. That, though, has been really found out and well read by the Knights, looking for a fourth, but Mercury will find that gap. But this is not out of dangerous waters.
Now it's up to the pack to really adjust their tone, because right now they were playing that simplified play, and that had been working until that was recognized by the Noble Knights. When they find your positioning and you're simplifying your game a little bit too much, these little touches right here will throw you off again. Just fine-tuned, surgical movements and touches on the ball from the Noble Knights have been able to really capture and captivate the pack, and they haven't been able to do much and have much of an answer in this game too.
You know who hasn't had an answer? Maine, for what Noble High has been doing. If this score line were to stand, 30 games in a row will this squad have been able to win. That's a wild number to me, especially in a fall semester. Trying to stay perfect and reach the good old 30 bomb mark. I speak of that in, FPS terms sometimes, but for these guys, it has been crazy. Carl Jumper, again, early challenges, and this is the kind of play that you really have to get around. It's easier said than done because it is just an execution speed being done flawlessly by Noble High. The pack, a lot of work to do, and game 3 is going to have to be where it starts because they're going to be down 2-0 in the series, and the Knights are going to be feeling very, very good.
And it's not the direction you want to be trending either as the Noble Knights go up 2-0 in the series. You wanted to, maybe use that first game to be a little bit more exploring things. Words eluding me right now. Regardless, Noble Knights at the 4-0 mark in game 2. So instead, the spread gets a little bit farther out. And so now is not the time to be experimenting. You should be able to just shift there. So now it's more important than ever for Stacks to kind of settle down the team and really get them playing in the direction that they want to, because they're trending, unfortunately, in the wrong direction.
Yeah, and this is also, I think, 13 shots. The last time around, it was 12. So they're slowly upticking the amount of offense they're going with. And it's different players because Frosted Phoenix, they had 8. Previous one, Carl Jumper had 9. You know that's the main just two-man kind of arsenal that you're using to really open up space. And they're just getting it in spades. And it's single touches that then bait up the defender, and they win it. Now, you saw attempts to do the same thing by MCI on the other side, but they were also hoping that it would just create this gap for maybe a bump and then drop it in immediately. But no, the defense was way too solid from Noble, and that's going to be something that changes very, very quickly. It's a low percentage win rate of getting reverse sweeps in best of sevens, and this has got to be one, well, you don't want to fall into that pit. Pack, they've got to strike back.
Play with that same edge that they've been playing with. I feel like those bumps and demos have been really opening things up, but they just haven't been able to make them pay and punish whenever they've been able to accomplish it. So they can get back to it here. Jello Boy not able to connect. I believe it from Mercury, but Peanut's already on it. And that timer in your head has to be ticking there, because on that challenge, you got to be looking around, knowing where the opponent's going to come from, because that was obvious that he was going to be able to get that dunk. And sometimes you just have to fake him out and let the next in rotation jump on it. And that's causing all this pressure from Noble Knights to continue through. It was a quick start there for the pack to get out on the offensive side, but has been answered right back. An opportunity here, but a floater from Mercury goes a little bit wide of the mark. And Peanut would just have to chop at it here to the side wall. Peanut did a great job to get it over to Carl. That'll force Mercury back here in rotation.
What a chaotic combination that was, too, because that was a double commit that came out of the goal line, and then they were able to find one. This is a foot race, and Mercury actually has space. The demo was the assigned play, but the shot never developed. Oh, they had to get rid of the defender because they were going to be there at the back post. Now Carl Jumper trying to pancake this one, unable to, and now it's just been a lot of chase down. You have these players going very man-to-man. Mercury with the slow turn and playing for an ounce of control, but Carl Jumper is a bit faster and gets to run downhill as they play awkwardly side to side.
And more of that the communication that was so strong in game number 1 that doesn't seem as clean as it had been. I think maybe a little bit of that frustration is wearing over from that game 1 overtime loss when you had things going your way. You had a comeback in the pocket, and it goes by the wayside. It feels kind of tough, but Pack will look to bounce back from it. As Mercury now steps up, uses the corner, get that bump on Carl. Of course, Peanut around as you see that support come out so quickly in a clean 50-50 win. Luckily for MCI, they'll be right in the hands of Fresco, but Fresco just kind of gave away possession here to allow Frosted Phoenix to quite quickly turn on it. And although Mercury will get out this inner field, that's as far as he'll get as Peanut and Carl Jumper combine, as we've seen so many times, and now pushes towards the box, but a good shutdown again by Mercury.
Good news for the Pack right now. No scores have happened at the midway mark. Oh, but the ankle! Jello Boy! Holy cow, wait a minute. Demos galore. They travel with it, able to get a plant, and then bang, I think Peanut out of the way, but that was just extra as they'd already done the dunk before.
Yeah, he must have looked at Carl Jumper after that one and said, hey, I got some tricks of my own here. That was impressive.
Yeah.
Nice double touch. It's not something that we expected here because they've been playing such a more simplified game. And I feel like the coaching staff got in the chat and said, hey, let's try to amp it up a little bit, play with more confidence. And that's a great way to give your team a first lead in this series, but it may not last long the way we have pressure here from the Noble Knights.
This has been a difficult one too, because you see that Jello Boy actually changed cars. A little bit of discomfort and trying to find a comfort position with them. And honestly, when I was looking at the squad, Mercury seemed to be more of that player that there was dependency on to really execute. Instead, Jello Boy finding a nice mechie play to make sure that this team stays ahead. And that's the first lead that we've had for the entirety of these 3 games for MCI. Jello Boy goes on open space. They're not going to have a lot of boost, and now it's about Noble Knights forcing the pressure. Look how quickly they are trying to just get in the face of every Pack player. Carl Jumper will leave that alone. Jello Boy gets a bump, and Fresco finds a clear.
And he will. Much needed one here after you establish the lead, and they were coming at you quite hot. Fresco beat to it, though. Good speed there from Carl Jumper. Jello Boy in support. Peanut, pass 2, last man back, will have to launch it high and look to chase it from there. Frosted Phoenix trying to let it come back down to him, but took a little bit too long as Jello Boy is able to get that next touch. Now Mercury's there. Shot taken, carries it over Peanut's head, and a 2-0 lead for the Pack.
That is what I've been looking for out of Mercury. Jello Boy has been trying to be a nuisance against Carl Jumper, forces him to have to get too early of a touch, and that lands into unsafe waters where Mercury was cycling through, and they just hit the boost button, never look back. And Noble Knights now under fire and under threat of dropping their first game in the entirety of the semester. It's a one-on-one. Fresco finds just enough.
Just enough of holdouts. The Frosted Phoenix gonna push it right back in. Wires Jello Boy credited with the save there. That one apparently on target, so a great dive out. Carl takes that shot on net. We saw plenty of that through the first few games. And look at Mercury getting creative here with a bump from the backside, basically from the own end, setting up a 1v1. But it was Carl that was able to jump out and get the better of that exchange and allow Peanut to get it back out to him as they try and start some aggression. But Carl Jumper realizing that his team has been taken off the pitch, and so he'll have to just settle, just wait, play more patient as Peanut will try to cycle around. No touch available. Fresco beat to it though. Frosted Phoenix here in the last 9 seconds. They need one, almost there, but Carl and Jumper trying to get that shot off, but just all sorts of chaos, and it will be the Pack that will walk away with this Game 3 win, and a big one here as the Noble Knights will get one from the road nonetheless.
You know what? They get one for the road, and maybe that'll be a spark for later, Kachow style. But the Pack have done what no one else have been able to do through the entirety of this season, and that's get a game win on the Knights. The Pack, pat on the back, well deserved. There's still more work to do, but let's talk about them. Mercury and Jello, and it was Jello that started the entire thing. That is the two that you need to really get moved forward for MCI. It's also Fresco. I think if you really kind of find this into a coaching moment, you just need to tell them, hey, we're just looking for a solid connection. We don't need you to go do everything to match up to what Jello and Mercury. We simply want you to just have solid involvement, and they started getting that in those latter minutes when they needed good defense.
It's a solid point because as a player in that situation, if you think about it from that viewpoint and not getting to the triple digits as far as score goes, feels frustrating. That means that you haven't really contributed on the scorecard. But you're right, there's so much more that goes into it. And sometimes when you have two players that are, 1 for 3 shooting over the past couple of games, right? They've been pretty hot. Let your team go to work. Let them do what they're doing. And you just hold down and make sure that you're not committing too far forward as a third man. We see that happen a little bit too frequently. So yes, I think that's a great point. And that brought up, MCI's really thought about their shots very deeply whenever they take them. I like the efficient grade A chances they're allowing themselves to be patient for. And it's not that easy to be patient against this Noble Knights team, but they've been able to do it and accomplish that and take shots when it really makes sense. You won't see them out shooting the Noble Knights, but what you will see them do is take more calculated shots, that is, for the Pack. And the Pack go back to work here and try to double up on what they're able to accomplish. A big mark trying to get in the heads of Noble Knights, who just surrendered their first game on the season.
It all started with a fantastic catalyst out of Jello Boy. This is something that can't be slowed down and must be made in multiples. Peanuts. Oh, they've got a dime on Carl Jumper. Mercury disrupts it for all of a moment. Fresco, that's the kind of off-ball play that I like seeing. They get the takeaway from Carl Jumper to try and create where they have done so in that back third. And even if they can't contribute completely offensively, you want them to dissect and just dismay what the Knights are trying to set up.
With some nice mechanics and recognition that nobody was back and set it up for a teammate. Carl Jumper jumps in on the play after Peanut set him up with a beautiful individual play, and patience pays off for the Noble Knights.
Oh, that's unfortunate because that was a soft doink, just able to keep it away from the second man, and Fresco caught in a no man's land. Can they go get the ball, or do they stay back and then no one's in position for a slow bowler? So unfortunate for the Pack. Great response now as the Knights find again an opening lead. We are 1 minute come and gone.
And Jello is trying to take on two members there. And when Carl Jumper's in there, it's very difficult to maneuver around, so you just sit back and let the rest of the team try and roll around. So out to midfield. Jello tries to jump on it here. Both teams looking to really make their mark. Noble Knights could go to match point here if they continue this trend, but a good reactionary save there from Mercury. They keep it out now, will leave it for his team, roll down the field and get that bump to free up that space. But Carl Jumper had other ideas. Now will lay the pressure on here for the Noble Knights until the Pack was able to jump on it. Here at midfield, it's Mercury sends it high off that 50-50, and Frosted Phoenix got ahead of it. Leads to opportunities, another bump, but it took a while for Fresco to get there. And now you got the lead blocker out in front. Noble Knights able to make it 2-0.
They were hoping to get eyes a bit more vertical, and then one solid beat against the second man turned this into a power play that the Pack could not recover from quickly enough. You're seeing Fresco. I think they said, hey, you need to get, we're allowing you to get a bit more faster. We want to get you into a one-man position simply to make those connections upfield so then Jello and Mercury can respond to it or just see if any gaps have been created. Jello in a one-on-one looking for a 50 underneath Frosted Phoenix, but I think this game plan may actually be kind of running asunder and, not the right direction they want to be. Fresco is working for 50-50s, but I think you need to re-weaponize Jello and Mercury.
And you see that start to come into fruition there as Jello tried to jump out and cause a little bit of chaos there. Jello still waits. Peanut tries to get to it here, but Fresco able to challenge and do just enough, but look out. Here's Carl Jumper looking for that second touch, but instead of leave it for Peanut as he wasn't able to find the angle, but look out. The back Oh man, that was chaotic. They gotta take a deep breath. They're out of coordination.
Yeah, that one, the pack acts as one mind, one soul, and apparently one big whiff as well. Fresco is going to find a lot of green grass on the opposite side of this pitch, so they give themselves a little bit of thinking room at the 2-minute mark where the Knights definitely could go on to championship point here for the fall semester at Play Versus, but the pack have a chance. They just have to slowly bleed it through. Jello and Mercury, they call on Fresco's number. He was very far back. That was kind of accidental, but both decided to retreat.
Mercury leaves the ball again. Maybe that wasn't the right choice there. You can tell it's part of the game plan, that you want to leave it for teammates in certain situations, but you have to know when those situations are. You have to be aware on the pitch in order to let that happen. But now it just kind of falls into the hands of Mercury. He's allowed the chance to take a shot, but not a lot of velocity on it, and so Froster is able to get it to Carl, and they'll look to get the center. And Frosted Phoenix leaves it there. Peanut bumped off the play. Here's Jello, a chance to come back down and try and get that wave dash before the next man comes through. Didn't able to do that, but they're still moving forward. Mercury off this corner. Frosted Phoenix needed a touch and got it. Look out, Carl Jumper. What a play. Up high. And you know he's got the mechanics for it. Once it went up, you're like, yep, there it is. Noble Knights up 3-0.
Frosted and Carl have been so keyed up on one another and where they are on the pitch. Carl was already at midfield waiting for a bang clang to come out from the back line of Noble High and then just get one solidly on net. Frosted Phoenix is going to leave this one out in open pitch, but less than a minute to go. It is uphill running for the pack. They need 3 in a hurry if they don't want to go down 3-1 in this series. Noble Knights, they may have let up a game, but they're going right back to true form.
Back to what made them just feared throughout the entirety of the regular season into this finals, and even through the playoffs, where they had that 4-0 victory as well, as they're just so quick to get to challenges. Fresco will launch it here. I mean, a little bit of that frustration sets in, right? From the pack's point of view here, they're going to be on match point against here after this one. And it's looking like they need to gain a little bit more momentum, and right now it just haven't been able to find any solutions to get to that point. So after that win for the pack, the Noble Knights continue to get back to business. They let it linger in their heads for just a little bit of time, and then came back out and were able to just put a statement piece on the pack, and they'll go up to 3-1 here in this series.
Not quite perfection, but good competitors, great competitors know how to adapt and overcome, and it was done efficiently. 3 out of 5 shots. A very low shooting affair. As much of this, I think, that you and I saw, Bear, was done in the midfield. A lot of contention just to kind of bump and bruise. And I think it was those first touch fakeouts that really were coming at a premium that were not able to go the way of MCI. And they definitely were like, all right, Fresco, you didn't get to be involved as much. We want to get you more involved. And I'm not saying to sideline them, but I definitely think that this is a different composition, a different makeup and identity when you get Mercury and Jello acting from the front instead.
Yeah, we saw, attempts to get back to that exact strategy about halfway through that game, and it was shut down a few times. But just because it's shut down, I mean, you've seen it shut down a few times in games 1 and 2, and when you got to it, you're able to accomplish what you did in game 3 and get that win. And I think you're right. It's very difficult it feels almost like you're beating your head against the wall a little bit, when you're constantly trying to encourage the right way to approach this game, and it just hasn't been working out for you. It's very difficult to kind of, get out of that mindset. But if anybody's capable of doing it, it is this team. MCI's got that winning ways, that winning culture, but they'll need to dig deep here as the Noble Knights are 1 game away from the championship. We'll see if they can get it done here.
You have to dig deep 3 times. You may hit some bedrock by the time you're done. Fresco, they overrun. I think that was Mercury, and Jello Boy, because of the demo, is going to be last man there. They do get a save. That's on Mercury. And then that one becomes a bang in the other direction. The pack under threats early, able to at least get a piece of the grid between them and the old goal line. It also needs to come down into how they are going on these rotations. Mercury was very much pressed up. Ooh, Jello Boy barely getting a piece, and they get enough of it to be a shot.
Carl Jumper, of course, the man on the spot, will use the rest of his boots to propel it forward, but He's able to just knock it away. Frosted Phoenix putting the pressure on off the crossbar. And Jello had to clean up the loose change because Fresco wasn't able to get around it and get the ball in front of him. So a dangerous look, but they're able to get away unharmed. At least for now, as it had been Noble Knights knocking on the door for a while. There's a bit of a mishap themselves. Look as they cross over one another defensively. Mercury up and try to get that pass off, but nobody was there. No intended target found, and Carl Jumper right back to it. Late delayed flick. Jello Boy read it all the way. Now jumps in front, like you mentioned. By the time Mercury's on it, that's what I'm talking about. Frosted Phoenix is on it instantly. So even when you're trying to push forward with those two, Noble Knights seem to be everywhere.
They're dominating at least field population. They're kind of in a full spread right now. They don't want to let the pack have a free lane to roll into. That's going to be at least a demo grab, but it was too awkward, and Peanut had a chance. What a clear. That had some pace on it. Unfortunate for the pack, it wasn't anywhere near net, but they just wanted to get some green grass between them and their goal line. That's Mercury up to Fresco. Mercury then gets into it before they give up the body and soul to try and force it into an offensive position. Jello Boy with the but no, Frosted Phoenix is already dunking it down to the ground. 2 minutes have tick-tock off the clock. And the pack, they need to make sure that they're the first ones to get on the scoreboard.
Need a quick start. The only time they got that 1-0 lead in any of these games in the series, they were able to win that game. But now, oh man, Noble Knights are all over it. But look in transition here as Mercury thought he had a little bit more room than he did, as Frosted Phoenix did a great job to cut the field. You don't want to cut rotation too often, but on the way back, that was perfectly timed, perfectly executed. But they're still not out of harm's way. Good shot there. Jello Boy gets on the mark. The pack on top.
Jello Boy has been the first one to score anytime the pack finally gets a lead. And what a top shelf shot, as they see Carl Jumper diving in from that upper 90 right side. And because they are daggering down, they can keep it aloft a little bit higher. And individual efforts have made things so good for the pack to be able to stay alive in this series. That's a great first step. They've got to do more.
It's a solid point, because we talk about it all the time. And you know, a lot of talent will say, you need to find passing plays, look for passes. Not so much, right? If the individual plays are working, stick with it. And the pack have been doing that, and it's been showing off. But also, individual efforts do exist on the other side. We've seen that too many times from Carl to be comfortable when he finds himself in those situations. And now it'll be Frosted Phoenix instead. That one's going to find its way all the way back into the net. Not sure where the defense went for the pack. Let's watch the rotation. Somebody got lost there.
That one was a heck of a curveball that came in from the interior, I guess, left side exterior of the ball, and then just kind of curled out back to the opposite side net. You had Fresco peeling across to that corner. They thought that was the most apt position where that ball was going to go, simply because of where the next man was hitting it. But what a connection by Frosted Phoenix, who is doing it again, that time in a feed over to Carl Jumper, who's looking for a 1v2. They're looking for bumps as well, just to get the pack a bit more frustrated. They will reset Jello Boy onto that demo, and Mercury now puts both Jello Boy and Fresco on an island. It's a 1v2. It's a blue wave, and Carl Jumper, who else is able to get this lead?
Of course, it's Carl Jumper, and Pino was the one that flipped that one high, so everybody getting involved again. Man, they set it up there. Fresco left just going for boost in a couple of situations. Now's the time. You're as strong as your weakest link. You gotta rally the pack. Get them going again. You had that lead, but you surrendered it, and Noble Knights are in prime position to try and close it out, especially when you got Carl Jumper back up to it. Leaves it as a fake, and Peanut will finish. Bar in. 3-1 now, Noble Knights.
Selfless, efficient. That's your captain right there. That's the one that knows what's up. Fresco can't do nothing more but try to come out to the ball to meet it, but Peanut was in a very timely position at the top of the key as they just slam it on home. A great give back over to one of their great players on the Knights squad. Pack 2 goals down. You got to find more. Fresco, it's a drop off over to Jello Boy. Carl Jumper doesn't want to give a chance. This one's going to be floating. They bump the defender, but no one there to crash the net when you need them the most.
Yeah, that's a tough one situation, especially when you're late. But Mercury able to get to it. Noble Knights looked lost a little bit, and Mercury makes them pay. So hold that thought. The Packer back within 1.
Peanut kind of traveled down. I think he didn't expect this hard rotation. It was actually pretty far back, and because of that, you had two that were ready for the clear to go back onto offense by Noble, and so they did. They just waited on it. This is a hop, skip, jump. Mercury looking to use all of their boosts. This is gonna waterfall outward. Jello Boy not ready for the amount of space. Fresco can't make a connection. They're looking to disrupt Carl Jumper at least a little bit. Mercury with a midfield connect. Less than a half minute to go, Bear. They have to get one with, and maybe time remaining, but just to work for OT.
Now back down. Carl, the bump. Cello needs to be careful with that and found Fresco. That was a risky pass, but he saw the teammate here, but you got to move forward. 10 seconds left. Here's Phoenix. Just wasting time trying to kill it, but Jello Boys got possession for their team. Mercury sends it down. Not enough boost to follow. Carl Jumper will get it to the ground, and the Noble Knights will win Maine Principals Association in the Play versus Championship. What an effort throughout the season.
Wow. One game short of perfection as they drop it in game number 3, but that was the pack fighting back, and yet they're able to bounce back in a huge moment. Jello Boy tried their very best to really be that catalyst for change for MCI, but sadly, they will come up a few steps short. But on the other side, hey, 32-1 ain't bad if you are the Noble Knights. Congratulations to them taking this fall semester championship, and they were looking really darn going at it. And honestly, Carl Jumper is a menace in all of Maine.
The master of Maine, you could say. I mean, he was phenomenal throughout this entire series. You imagine it went that same way throughout the regular season too, and a big shout out to all of that team and the coaching staff as well for building something truly special with the Noble Knights, who are now have been deemed sir, if you will. And we'll move on with that title. So we'll have the presentation obviously live at Thomas College. So that'll be incredibly exciting to watch as these students an experience of the lifetime and just able to finish out what they started throughout the season. This goes a long way.
It really does. And if you you take a step back, if you're MCI, you realize, okay, there's some times where we just maybe either let the land environment get to us. We just really couldn't, come to those moments where we needed to be able to capitalize on mistakes that Noble was making. They didn't make many of them, but this is also be that learning moment between fall, between spring. There's still a lot of time, a lot of Rocket League that can be played, and that's something that you can, bring into these moments. You've now had some of that big experience. You overcame one big foe and now a new one that you never got to play and to begin with. You took that game. No one else did. You did. And that's something they can really build off of.
It is. And in fact, with all those opportunities around, you could get in the action as well. So why not get into the action? Enrollment for the spring 2024 season is now open and it's free to compete. Discover the opportunities that Play Versus offers and get all the details on the upcoming spring season at playversus.com. That is playvs.com. Don't just watch, play, and apparently win if you're the Noble Knights as they're able to complete that victory.